Hello, everyone. This is Angela Evans, and I'm the Dean of the LBJ School. And I'm so pleased for those of you who are able to join us in virtual and people purpose tonight, but also those of you who will be watching this recording a little bit later. I really wanted to have this opportunity first to thank all of you for your interest in the LBJ School. It's a great school, and I'm not just saying that because I'm Dean, and I'll tell you little reasons why as we move along, but also because I think this is a very important decision in your life. And I want you to be fully informed of this a critical decision. So let's just get started. Why do I think the LBJ School is the best school to come to? Well, there's lots of reasons. First, when you think about the environment, a learning environment, where do you want to be? So let's talk about where we are. So we're in Texas, and I'm not originally from Texas. I'm from Buffalo, New York, and then spent most of my life in Washington, D.C. But when you think about Texas, let's look at that. It's a border state, so we're one of the few public policy schools where you can actually drive to an international border. We're in the capital, Austin, Texas, which gives you great flexibility. You can walk to the legislature, and our legislature meets every 2 years, but in between the legislative sessions, we're the ones who really help with the instructions that the Speaker and the Attorney General give to the legislature. We're in a Tier 1 research university, so while we're a public school, public policy school, we have access to an extraordinary number of departments and faculties, and we have great collaboration across the campus. And partly you can see some of this in our dual degree offerings, but you don't have to be enrolled in a dual degree here to be able to take advantage of the enormity of the talent that's in Austin. Also, when you say Texas, Texas has examples of some of the most emerging public policy issues we're going to be facing as a nation, not only in terms of our migration and demographics. We're in the state of Texas. We have some of the highest paid and most educated population, but we also have some of the lowest educational achievement. So part of what Texas is going through is a demographic shift, and what are these demographics showing not only for the state of Texas, but for the rest of the country? And I think those are things we're working on. Texas also has an example of almost every major city problem in the United States. So we have a border city, we have a port city, we have a capital city, we have a financial center, and we have a city that's in the middle of environmental development. So when you think about urban issues in urban areas, these two we have right here in the state of Texas. The other thing that the state of Texas gives us that really no other state gives us in terms of the public policy school and where it is, we have great ties to Washington, D.C. So while we're in Texas, we have a DC program, and I know some of you might be interested in the Washington, DC program, but it's a program that is a public policy degree that we give at the university here. So students spend 2 semesters here with their cohort that stays in Austin, and then in summer and in fall, our students move on to Washington, DC into apprenticeships. We call them that because they're actual jobs, so we try to get them ready very quickly and deeply while they're here, and off they go to Washington and work in public policy settings. And then they get a job. They graduate in December. As a matter of fact, just last Saturday night, we graduated our 3rd class. So it's a rigorous program, and it's geared toward the national policy arena. So when you put all these things together, you have sort of a unique setting here. And the other thing is when you think about Austin not only being the capital, but I'm telling you, there's just so much going on here in terms of dynamic nonprofit work. The Army's Futures just located here. We just understood that Google's going to put in a campus here. There's the technology, the nonprofit, the legislative richness of the state. It's all here just within walking distance of our campus. So that's one thing you should consider. It's like, what is Texas? Why is Texas different than my going to the East, West Coast, or other middle of the country schools? But the other thing I think is when you start thinking about the cohort you're going to be in, and the cohort is not only your fellow students, those who will be entering with you, but the students who are already here, our alum, our staff, and our faculty. So let's talk about the students. One thing that attracted me to the LBJ School was that I visited the school before I came here. I was with the Congressional Research Service, which is one of the agencies that works solely for the United States Congress, and that agency provides analysis and research in an objective manner to everyone who works in Congress, members and staff. And before I came here as the deputy director of that service, we visited a lot of schools to help us undertake our research for the United States Congress. And I must say, and again, I'm saying this not because I'm the dean, but fundamentally, I'm really telling you, every time I came here, which was 15 years before I came to be a professor here, the students here had a passion and a purpose that I didn't really find in any other school. And I don't know, to this day, I don't know what makes it so strong, but the students come here and they're just really driven. They're also very smart, and what I really loved about them, they're humble. They're not intellectual snobs. They're not erudites. They're just people who really want to make a difference. So that cohort and that atmosphere that you come into is really pretty powerful, and that's the group that you'll grow with while you're here, and that's the group you'll grow into when you become alum. We have about 4,000 alum already out of the LBJ School, and if you do decide to come to the LBJ School, you'll be with us when we celebrate our 50th anniversary in 2020. And we have alum in all different settings in a lot of different countries. And you may know one of our alums, a recent alum, is Stacey Abrams, who just ran for governor in the state of Georgia. We have a sitting governor. We had a sitting governor before Stacey. We have members in state legislatures. We have mayors. We have business leaders. We have people who run nonprofits, major foundations. And that alumni group, which is extremely loyal to the LBJ School, is there for all of you as well in terms of mentoring, in terms of welcoming you into their culture. So the whole student environment is a really pretty powerful one. And these will be your network and your cohort and your friends and your professional colleagues for the rest of your life. So the students are really important here. The faculty are just as important. And what I find with this faculty is that they are extraordinarily dedicated to two things. One is the students and making sure that the students have the most powerful, rigorous, yet relevant education that they can get while they're here. And the second, that their research, the rigor of their research is focused on the application of that research to real life situations. So when we're working on trying to advance the knowledge in an area, we always have in mind, how do you apply that knowledge? What difference does it make? Who are the people that we're trying to serve with this? What is the problem we're really trying to solve? So when we're talking about our professors, which is a great mix of talents and disciplines, these are the types of things and the ideas that they have, and this is the kind of rigor they'll bring to the classroom. So our professors they scan all the different levels, of a professorship, from full professors to assistant professors. We have a diverse faculty, so we have people diverse in terms of discipline, in terms of country of origin, in terms of region of the country they were educated in terms of racial diversity, in terms of political diversity. So we're trying to bring you into an environment where you're getting exposed to ideas that are different, and how people are able to take those ideas, bring them into their own repertoire of what they're thinking, and how they use those ideas for public service, public good, and by giving it to you by people who are real, people who want to share that with you. So the faculty is pretty amazing. And our areas of expertise range everything from water to microeconomics to national security to children and their families to energy policy to people who are really steeped in methodologies and data computation to trade to technology. So even though we're a small school, we have these intellectual leads in these big areas. And the other thing great about our faculty, they're wonderful collaborators across the campus. They go out and they really bring to the school other faculty and experts that can enhance your education. And then, you can't leave off the staff. And a lot of you who are going to be listening to this now or once it's recorded are going to be having your first experience with our staff from the Office of Student Affairs and Admissions. And they're the face of our school to all of you when you first you come into contact with our school. And I have to tell you, again, the staff is extraordinary. They're dedicated. They want you to succeed. They're here from you. They're very service oriented. And I have to say we're very, very lucky to have the kind of staff that we have here at the LBJ School. So though in a nutshell, that's kind of our environment, from students to faculty to staff. And so what do I think? I really wanted to spend some time with you to think about your decision to go to a public affairs, public policy, public administration school, whether it's here or whether it's someplace else. When you think about entering public policy, either going into public service or actually being in a public policy setting where you inform public service, I think this is probably the best time in your career for you to be thinking about entering into the public arena. You see from what if you're paying attention to the news and you're listening to what's going on in our government and global governments, there's a lot of attention being paid to leadership, to the role of a legislative body to its people, to the role of courts, and to the role of an executive agency implementing what the legislative bodies and the people want. So when you think about this is an extraordinary time to be in public service. Also, it's a transitional time. This is a time that you, unlike the folks who even 10 years ago, the arena that you're going into is very different. It's an arena filled with information. And so how do you judge what is the best information to use? What's the weaknesses of that information? What are important deltas in that information that you don't know and you need to know to make a decision? So the information landscape for you who are going out into your careers is very different and vast and very complicated. Two, you're working in a political arena that right now is relatively divided compared to what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, and certainly when I got into public policy. So how do you navigate those divisions? How do you find commonality among the various factors? How do you say there's one place where we can start, even if we disagree on a lot of areas, let's start there and figure out where we go? That's the world you're going to be going into. You're not going to go into a world where everybody agrees with you and thinks that everything you do is wonderful and great and, oh, let's just go on, let's join hands and we're all fine. You're going to go into a very rancorous situation, and it's up to you to bring that rancor down, make that decibel level down, and get down to rational discussions and trying to get people to agree on what exactly is the problem. Once you agree on that, there's a lot of different ways you can attack that problem, and that's where innovative, creative thinking comes in. So how you think about very complicated problems in a way that you can tackle and actually come up with ideas and innovations and new ways of dealing with these problems is another difference that we have here. And another way is social media. So how do you communicate with people who are in power, who people you're giving counsel and advice to, and how does social media play into that? So while we'll teach you a lot about writing, and writing is a very critical skill that you'll learn here, because writing reflects your ability to think critically and rationally. But how do you use social media? How does social media inform what you're going to be doing? How is social media going to inform how you're going to disseminate your information? How does it give you previews to what people are going to be doing? And then how does it distract from you even going deeper into things and being curious and being a little bit of a detective and a little bit of an archaeologist and a little bit of a prosecuting attorney? So how do you do that? How do you actually get those skills going when you're a student? And those are things we think about here at the LBJ School. Some people call them soft skills. I don't call them that. I really call them skills that you're going to have to, when you leave here, those are skills you're going to have, and we have to give you the training ground with those skills. The other thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to bring people together who normally don't get together. So you have to create coalitions of people who might not be friendly toward each other, friendly toward you, but these coalitions are extremely necessary for you to get things done. So how do you form these coalitions and sustain them? That is another thing that you have to learn how to do. How do you bring people in to a meeting or to a discussion or to an innovative session of how we're going to work together when people don't like each other? Or when they come from very different perspectives and they want their perspective to be the one that prevails. That's another thing that you learn in public policy schools if we're successful. And then the other thing is, how do you start trusting information? When do you have enough information to make a decision? Is it authoritative? If it isn't enough, what do you do about a person? What do you do about giving counsel and advice to people who need some kind of information? And then how do you ensure that the next time you're trying to come up with this problem, that you actually have that information? So being prepared to provide insights when you don't have all the information that you need. So part of this is, again, what we do at our school. We're trying to instill these types of skill sets and knowledge, not only in the sense of you're in the classroom and you have a theoretical exposure, but how does this really work in real life? And that brings us to another part of why LBJ School is unique. 50 years ago, when our public policy schools really started, we had public administration schools for longer than that, but 50 years ago was when the term public policy and public policy analyst came into being. Like, who are the people who can bring all kinds of ideas and information together and then translate that and disseminate it in a very clear, concise manner to people who have to make a decision? Those are 50 years ago. So 50 years ago, there were different approaches to how to actually advance this knowledge and teach people to be good analysts. One approach was the case approach. So you have the Kennedy School using a lot of case-heavy approaches in their education. Another model was the RAND Corporation, when you're looking really more specifically at military national security contract work. Another approach was using science and technology, and that was Carnegie Mellon. They were founded in how do you use the technology and science that's available to inform public policy. And then there was the approach that the LBJ School had, and that was, how do you blend practitioners who've been in public policy with academics who are studying and trying to advance the research and knowledge base on this. So our DNA and our history is based on that, and this school does a great job of blending these two very important perspectives. So the students can get to learn from people who are not only steeped in really great research and trying to advance the knowledge and theories and frameworks in which we think, but also by people who have been out in the real world, who've been administrators, who have been leaders. So for example, last year we had Julian Castro here, who just announced an exploratory mission to run for president. But when he was here, he came as a former mayor of San Antonio, a former secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and he was talking to our students about how you look at public policy through the lenses of various levels of government. Admiral McCraven, who was the former chancellor of the UT system in Special Forces, Navy SEALs, is going to be with us starting in January, and his whole purpose is to teach you about coalition building and trust building and leadership. We have another faculty member here who was a senior advisor to the United States Congress on immigration. So we're trying to bring people to you, not just one-offs on an event or a lunchtime meeting. We do a lot of that. All the public policies do really well in exposing people to you in these events, but to actually be in the school with you, available to you to talk and discuss their perspective as a practitioner. So I think, with that, I don't want to be a talking head here and just talking to you and like I'm giving you a lecture. Since there's very few of you on this meeting, I think perhaps we can do some Q&A if you'd like, if you want to set that up. So I'm happy to take some questions, but before some people pull off of this, I want you just to remind you that December 15th is our deadline for applications, especially those who want to be considered for funding. But we'll have a rolling acceptance, and the next big deadline is March 15th And these deadlines don't vary too much across different institutions. But if you want to be considered for financial support and fellowships, December 15th is a good day and a good deadline for you to meet. And then, we're always here to answer any questions. We have an incredible staff here. So please, if anybody has any questions, we can spend a few more minutes just answering your questions.
Thank you, Dean Evans. And just a reminder, there is the chat function. So if you would like to type a question, you're more than welcome to, and I'm happy to read it out loud. Also, hello, this is Gwen and Osa.
Maybe what I can do is, for those of you who are shy or who really don't have a question, I'm going to give you, I'll go over some of the questions that we've gotten in other webinars, and so we can quickly get those underway. It says, what kind of careers do your students go into? So some of it I said previously. So for example, Stacey Abrams, former Democratic nominee for Georgia governor. There's a Shamina Singh, who's Executive VP of Sustainability at MasterCard and President of MasterCard Center for Inclusive Growth. Nancy Levine, VP for Justice Policy at the Urban Institute. Jean Wu, who's a State of Texas rep. Stephanie Muth, who's Deputy Executive Commissioner of Medicaid and CHIP in Texas. Sarah Eckert, who's a Travis County judge. Ed Emmett, who is the Harris County judge, which is the fastest growing county one of the fastest growing in the United States, and it's Houston, and who's experienced extraordinary growth, extraordinary federal emergency management. He's also an alum, and actually he's coming to the school for this next semester to do a legislative watch with us, and he'll have some kind of affiliation with us. Laura Huffman, who is our regional director of the Texas Nature Conservancy. Rachel Huff, recent graduate who's at the Senate Armed Services Committee. So we can go on and on. So people go from, as you see with these examples, you can get into elected office, you can get into supportive legislative offices, you can get in executive offices, and you can be in the private sector. Another question people asked was about the DC concentration. I think I covered that pretty well.
Evans, whenever you're ready, I actually have some questions.
Okay. Well, let me go to the questions, as I rather answer the questions that the folks have. Go ahead.
So the first question I have is from Megan. She says, thank you for taking time to set up and speak at this call. What words of advice do you have for a prospective student who is interested in public and nonprofit management? And I have two after that.
Okay. So Megan, your first thing is, you're doing the right thing, is sleuth out and do some homework and get informed about what programs you want to work in and be in to advance your knowledge base and your expertise. So when you're thinking about nonprofit, the nonprofit arena is a really interesting arena when you're thinking about public policy, because often when you get into nonprofits, you have more flexibility to make a difference. You're working in a smaller arena, and there's usually less people in that arena. So often you have a very driven mission, and you can make a big difference in a state or local community. I think that's a good thing. I think one thing that you have to think about is to be open to learning about all the different arenas in which public policy takes place, because if you decide to stay in the nonprofit arena, you're going to be working with the public sector and the business sector. So while some people try to make divisions between a private sector career, a public sector career, or a nonprofit career, I'm seeing those blend more and more in terms of what you're going to be doing as a public policy individual. And looking at the programs, looking who's in the programs, who's teaching the programs, what the programs offer you in terms of opportunities outside of the classroom. What are some of their, for example, right at the LBJ School, we have the RGK Center, and that does a lot of nonprofit work, both in terms of the city as well as the state and the nation. They're doing some great indicators on poverty. They're looking at social entrepreneurship. They're tied in with the business community here and the nonprofit and the public. So I think if you think of it broadly in terms of how the nonprofit arena is going to fit into the full public policy environment, I think that's a way to really think about things and do your homework on the programs and the people in the programs.
Great. And I have another question from Ross. What type of funding does the LBJ School offer for projects and conferences for current students?
So there's three different ways fundamentally that we do that. One is our students we have a professional development fund for our students, and there we will support each year we will support a student a trip to a conference, or if they want to do some preliminary research on issues. So we have some of that, people apply for that, and we reward that. The other thing is we really encourage our students to get involved in the research and in some of the community relations our faculty have, so that you can have some of those experiences with the faculty, and we support that type of thing. So, for example, I'll just use an example. The Texas legislative session begins in January, and we have 32 interns from our school that are placed in the legislative body, both sides of the aisle, and individual members in committees and also leadership offices. So in that case, what we do is we support them in terms of their work, but also in terms of helping them understand the environment they're in. So we check in with them and make sure that they're okay. A big part of your work here, Ross, is going to be taking advantage of who we have here in terms of faculty and what research they're doing, but also what the community of Austin has to offer for you, to have some work experiences and also some ability to give you support in that. So there's a lot of opportunities here. In addition to, I want people to think about, not only is the school, when you think about the tuition here, both even the out-of-state or in-state tuition, it's a relatively very cost-friendly school. But when you get here, we try to find ways to do whatever we can to assist the students with financial support, whether it's through internships or through their work schedules or their placement, or this professional development fund that we have.
Thank you, Dean Evans. I have another question. This is our last question from Matthew Roy. He asks, what would you say sets LBJ grads apart from other public policy grads across the country? It's a great question.
It is a great question, and I'm just going to give you my personal opinion, because if I think about, you're asking me a question to compare the students I know to a broad array of public policy, people in the world. So let me tell you why I came here, because this will give you a little bit of reason why I think our students are special. Before I came to the LBJ School in 2009, I was the deputy director of the Congressional Research Service. And in that, when I was at the Congressional Research Service and when I was the deputy, one of the things I looked at was how are we going to enhance our capacity at the Congressional Research Service when our budgets are relatively flat? How are we going to enhance our capacity to do research? So we said, let's go to the public policy schools. Let's go to the top 30 public policy schools and see if we can formulate some partnerships with these schools in terms of helping us with research, like benchmarking or lit reviews or helping us create data. So the very first year we went out to do this, only one school got in line to help us do that, and that school was the LBJ School. So, okay, we're new and you're taking a chance on us. The LBJ School did a project for us on cargo and looking at data that we had on cargo that started in a foreign port and ended up in a U.S. city or town. That was such a successful plan that after that, about 5 years after we got that going, 18 public policy schools had entered into the arena with us in terms of working with us. What that meant was I went to every one of those schools at the beginning of the semester to kick off the project, to tell the students this is real work. This isn't a report that you're going to do and then put on a shelf. This is real work. And here's what I found about the LBJ School, both the faculty and the students, that I did not find anywhere else. And that was consistently the LBJ School students, the student body, was purpose-driven, really smart, and I'm going to use this and you're going to laugh at me, normal. They were normal human beings. They really loved being with other people. They were extraordinarily smart, and they were very hardworking, consistently, no matter what class I came to, no matter what year. I got that in other schools, but wasn't consistent like I did at the LBJ School. The other thing I got is the professors were really dedicated to the students learning from these projects, because some of these projects were very difficult and professors really stuck with them. So when I think about our alum are very loyal. So I know a lot of our alum, and I will tell you, those characteristics, they follow through our alum when they get out there. These are very hardworking, very driven, very humble, and very smart people. So while I don't want to indict other people and say they're not or whatever, all I can do is tell you about our students. And at the Congressional Research Service, that was the go-to school when we were looking for people to come and work in Washington.
Thank you, Dean Evans. We really appreciate your time tonight. These are some great questions. I just want to remind everyone that we are available at lbjadmit@austin.utexas.edu if you have any questions. We're also going to post this webinar on our website so you can review any of the questions or comments that Dean Evans made. Thank you so much, Dean Evans. We really appreciate your time.
Well, this is really, I wish I could see you all. It's very weird to be talking to a screen. But I really do encourage you to explore. This is a very big choice for you. I understand that. And please ask us any questions that you need to help you make a more comfortable, informed decision. And try to visit us if you can. So I hope to see you here at the school. And thank you very much for taking your time tonight. And good luck to whatever you do. Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.